Well, happy Sunday, everybody. Here I am with Jody Rich, the founder and executive producer at NFT NYC. Jody, thanks for joining me on a Sunday.
Co-founder. There were others, great people.
There are others, that's true.
So great to see you, Ian. And you've just had a week of 26 interviews with some of our key speakers.
That's right. I was feeling it when I thought about it this week, what that experience was like, connecting with a couple dozen of our sponsors and speakers. I think there's just a lot of gratitude from people, gratitude that NFT NYC exists, that's not a brand new event, that it's been around for a long time, that there's consistency with the team, that it's been involved in the development of this industry, and a lot of excitement. And so much of that has to do with you and all the other co-founders that are involved that are putting this all together.
So you reached out to what, about 100 of our 600 speakers, and you offered to do interviews before the event.
That's right.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think I filled up all my slots in the first hour. So then I thought, well, I guess 50 interviews is not enough. So I had to add more spots. So now we have over 100 of these scheduled. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to have a chance to feel connected to our community before the event really starts.
And many of them have been part of our events for the last few years.
Right.
So everyone that you've been interviewing, or most of the people that you've been interviewing, have seen an evolution.
That's right.
I am completely knocked over with what's happened over the last few months.
Yeah.
Both our NFT Cred platform and our NFT NYC community have gone from almost 0 to 100 in seconds. It feels like seconds. And you may recall the last event was one stage, one day. We thought in February, should we do this or shouldn't we do this again? With COVID and all the things that were happening.
Right.
And we said, okay, we'll do it. So we booked the Edison again, which is that wonderful retro theater right up on 47th and Broadway.
Love that place.
And yeah, I love it too. And they have a rooftop this year. They've got this beautiful big glass rooftop,
right,
where we're having the speaker event, the VIP and speaker event on the Monday night. So we booked that with the rooftop, their ballroom, and what they call their ballroom south. And we thought, okay, let's do it. And we really weren't sure if, we're putting the money out. We weren't sure if with COVID whether we'll be able to do it or not. So off we went. And in April, we were getting a little bit more interest than we had seen in previous years.
Right.
And our thing is that we like to put as many thought leaders from the community on stage as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what you're helping us with, for sure. In fact, you're going to have the Gold Room again.
I can't wait.
Yeah, there's
magical things happen in the Golden Room.
I know. In fact, I was there during the week and I had them take a picture of me in the Gold Room and I sent it to you so you could get the memories. It's Ian's interview Gold Room, right? So you'll be interviewing people all day long. Anyway, we went to 2 stages on one day, and then we went to 2 stages on 2 days. We actually had to move the event from the 20th of October to the first week of November because the Edison couldn't give us 2 consecutive days.
Right.
And it was like, okay, this is really big. 2 stages, 2 days. And I thought I had overextended. And I don't know where we were up to May. And suddenly from about May, there was a tsunami. By early June, we had over 1,000 speakers applying. 52% have been accepted, which is great. And someone in the team said to me, Jody, we've over accepted and we don't have enough room for all the speakers that we've accepted. And so I went into this panic. I was stuck in Australia. You to leave Australia during this crazy time, you had to get the government's permission. So I ended up finally getting a permission to leave Australia on the basis that what I'm doing here is in the national interest. Fantastic. And now we've added 2 more venues to make sure that we can accommodate everyone. We have another Broadway theater, and we've taken over a whole new hotel to make it Club NFT NYC.
Wow.
How fun is that?
So
and In a conversation I was having with Gary Vee a while ago, a couple of months ago, Gary said, well, we were actually talking about the event and how it was a community event. And he said, Jody, we have the opportunity now to make NFT NYC the South by Southwest of New York.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. New York is the capital of finance. New York is one of the capitals of fashion. New York is one of the capitals of art. And Madison Avenue, since the 60s, has been the capital of marketing.
Yeah.
So, but there's one more bit. Guess what we have in Times Square? We have monitors everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. What does that mean? We have a place to show our NFTs.
Yes.
So, I and Cameron and the team and the early founders, our friends at OpenSea, are deeply committed to this being the South by Southwest Festival of New York. And it's so fun to be part of it. It's so fun to have you as part of it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I'm so glad I've been a part of it since it was an idea that you and Cam had in 2018.
Well, it was actually to remind you, it was a dinner that I had. I said to Cameron, I'm having dinner with Devin Finza. This was about August of 2018. I'm having dinner with Devin down in the village at my favorite Italian place called Bar Pitti. And Devin and I sat right near the window table at the front. And I said, Devin, let's do an event. He said, oh, I haven't done an event before. I said, well, that's okay. We'll take care of it. I said, are you in? He said, yes, I'm in. Do we need to call Alex? Yeah, let's call Alex. So Alex said he was in. Devin was in. Cameron registered the domain name NFT NYC. And here we are.
Here we are. There's a lot of focus on you and the team and everything you're doing for NFT NYC, but maybe we could take a moment and you could talk a bit about NFT.cred. Because there's so many exciting projects, so many great platforms that are being built and have been built and being talked about that are being put together. But you and your team have worked on this platform for a long time. It's been vital for my company at Attention Live. It's been vital for many huge brands that lean on you. So maybe this could be a moment that you could talk a bit about the project and the platform that's closest to you, the one that you've invested, your team and you have invested so much time, energy, and money into.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes, you're right, because a lot of the team members who have been working on NFT Cred have also helped us with what we're trying to do at NFT NYC. And I guess I have 2 day jobs at the moment. One is NFT NYC and the other is NFT Cred. So NFT Cred is a platform for brands and influencers to create their own marketplaces and their own NFTs on the blockchain of their choice. Mm-hmm. And we think that it's important for people to be able to display their NFTs in a way that allows them to control their own data and the experience that they want their fans and their friends to have. As you know, my day job number one has been the CEO of People Browser. And for many, many, many years, we've been creating a SaaS platform that allows people to build their own social networks. And we integrated blockchain many years ago. Ripple was the first. And then 3 years ago, we began our experimentation with NFTs. And so now we have, now we are deeply integrated into one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world. And that's gone very well. They've got an amazing team and working very closely with us. We're deeply integrated into a music platform called Serenade. We have dozens and dozens of other brand customers that we're working with, big brands. And our job in this ecosystem is to give brands and influencers a voice for their NFTs on their own domain.
Yeah. When you think about the future of NFT.cred, if you play it out a couple of years, and then maybe we could bring it closer for what the plans are for NFT NYC in June next year. But for NFT.cred as a platform, when you start to cast the vision, you start to set the trajectory of where you want that company and that platform to be at in the next couple of years, where do you think things will be, let's say in 2024 with that development? Or what do you hope will be the case?
Well, if you're to look at it in terms of what would be the best outcome, it's making the APIs that we have developed and use for our no-code solution, making those APIs available to other developers.
Yeah,
And I know you and your team were one of the first groups to develop on our APIs.
that's right.
So, we have APIs for minting, we have APIs for distribution, we have APIs for giveaways, APIs for creating drops and packs and delivery of NFTs. And we think our role in the ecosystem is to make it as easy as possible for an end user to register and do things with their NFT, whether it means trading, sharing, commenting, selling, auctioning. We have APIs that do all of those things.
Yes. Well, I'm very excited that we have been able to use the tech that your team has built. It's been a big impact for us at our team. Let's bring it a little closer. So NFT NYC 2022, any insights you want to give, anything that you want to let people be aware of in advance so that they're prepared for any sort of call to action that happens this November as you kind of lay out the plan of, hey, here's what's happening next summer?
Well, I've said to my team that I think November is a dry run for June next year. It has really only been in the last 6 weeks that we've realized how big this can be.
Yeah.
And so we're experimenting. We're experimenting with Club NFT NYC, the Margaritaville Resort, which is a new hotel on 41st and Broadway, or maybe 41st and 7th. We're taking over all the public areas. And we're making that a place for networking, and that's really fun. And so what we're working on is turning NFT NYC into a corridor on Broadway from 47th down to 41st Street.
Right.
And it's a big job. We'll have over 100 volunteers. I actually had a call with my friend Hugh Forrest, who's the program director at South by Southwest. I think you met Hugh.
Yeah.
And I said, Hugh, we're holding on. Give me some advice. And, he said, you've got to make sure you get your volunteer program right. We're working on that. And there's a wonderful woman who's recently joined our team, Julie Lamb, who's looking after all of our volunteers. We're also doing something which, again, is a few experiments. You may remember last year, Jody was the MC.
Right.
But I really wasn't MC. I was more of an operations person. I was hustling people on and off the stage because we have this lightning format. We try to get as many people on stage as possible. And we don't have gaps in between. And we don't play you music while you're looking at your phone. We actually shuffle people on and off straight away. And in one year, we had 110 speakers in one day. It was crazy. This year, we probably have 80 or 90 people on stage per day per stage. And I can't be in 3 places at once. And so Cameron and I were talking about this 6 weeks ago. I said, Cam, what are we going to do? He said, oh, well, maybe we should get a production company to find some MCs for us. I said, yeah, it doesn't feel like NFT community. And then, one of us had the idea, why don't we reach out to our friends? Ian, best friend Ian, will you help MC? And so Ian, Alex Mashinsky, Lou, Avery, various friends of ours are going to help MC. And I wrote to everyone, including you, and I said, this is not a glamorous MC role. This is an operational role. Do you want to do it? And everyone said, love to help. So that's an experiment. Using the community as MCs is an experiment. We'll see how that goes, and I feel good about it. The other experiment, and I was talking to Peter Boards, another friend. Peter, as you know, ran all Consensus, and now he's at Messari, and he runs Mainnet. I had lunch with Peter this week, and he said, how are you dealing with programming for 600 speakers? And I said, we're sort of letting it self-assemble. He said, what? I said, well, our job was to figure out what categories of things people wanted to talk about. And then our job was to make sure we could fit it into the program. And we had to move about 80 people who wanted talks into panels, and we got through that. And then we wrote to people and said, well, for example, Ian, your talk is on identity and social applications of NFTs. There are 4 other people who want to talk about that. We're just putting you all together.
Yes.
So the panels are sort of self-assembling, and the leaders of the panels are self-assembling. And we've asked these self-assembling panels to submit decks. So let's see how that turns out.
Well, I mean, this is what everybody's used to in this environment, right? This is a Web3 decentralized environment. People are trying to transform their existing companies or launch new companies as DAOs. They're trying to disassemble all the centralized nature of their content creators, their consumers, or anybody that would be a client, and try to create DACs around that. And so we should have an element where people are self-starting, self-assembling, know how to take, charge of things and do it hopefully in a humble yet confident way.
I'll tell you one last thing. We weren't going to release this until next week, but
here it is. Everybody ready?
Got me. So I mentioned earlier that we sort of had this wonderful canvas in Times Square. Times Square is our canvas.
Yes.
And so we went out and bought quite a lot of Times Square billboard space, as much as we could, including the biggest one in the world, which is One Times Square. That big long one at the end, at the south end.
Oh, yes.
And we have, I think, 5 of the biggest Times Square billboards exclusively our content only for 1 hour, from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, the 2nd of November. And it's almost winter. The sun comes up fairly late. I think the sun rises at about 6:35, the sun rises at 7:30 on the 2nd of November. So just a little bit after sunrise, with a gray backdrop, we are lighting up Times Square for an hour with our favorite NFTs and our sponsors' NFTs. And we're inviting, I don't know if you remember, at the northern end of Times Square, Broadway and 47th, there's something called the Red Steps.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, so we're going to invite the audience, our attendees, our community, to meet at the Red Steps at 8:30. And the first 1,000 who get to the Red Steps are all going to get NFT NYC hats. This is my NFT NYC polo. We have hats. We have 1,000 hats. And when they're going to do a little photo opportunity on the Red Steps while we watch the show unfold.
Well, I'll be there with my arm around you. We'll both be wearing hats together. That'll be a great moment.
That's my news.
I love it. Okay, final word before we wrap the interview. If you had a statement to say on every single billboard in Times Square, and you knew that the several thousand people coming for our event would read and absorb and think about that statement, what is the statement you'd like to leave everybody with?
The world has woken up to NFTs.
Take it in, everybody.
We're out of the closet, Ian. We're out of the closet, dude.
Yes, we are. Well, for those that are watching us live or that see the archive of this, thank you for your attention. I'll be back again with more than 100 of these pre-event interviews over the coming next couple of weeks. Jody, thanks for jumping in.